And we're back with another episode. How's
Glad
it going?
to be back.
Always glad to be back.
We're trying.
Trying our best. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Coming off a good weekend.
Yes. I love a weekend where we have no plans.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often, but I love it.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend.
Yeah.
If you guys follow us, you know that we're somewhat of, I guess the term is foodies.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really love that term, but we have a great appreciation for really high quality foods and good restaurants. And this weekend, we accomplished, but one of my food
Bucket list.
destinations. We ate at Fort Charles.
Yeah, Fort Charles in Manhattan. First of all, ever since COVID, I feel like, I don't know if I think it's everywhere, not just New York, but you need a reservation for everything. It never used to be like that. Maybe certain restaurants, even here on Long Island, like a Friday or Saturday, you might not need one, but it's good to have one at certain times. And that never used to be the thing. But in the city, it's every restaurant is like so hard to get into. If we go on like a Friday or Saturday, we'll look on Tuesday and not even be picky with a restaurant. And like we can't get reservations, or you can only get one at like 10:30 p.m. something like that. So those are just for every restaurant.
Basic restaurants.
Yeah, like we'll go through them. Like we don't really care. We'll pick like have a whole list of ones, and we can't get any. But Fort Charles, it's been like on our list for like over a year.
That you can't get a reservation for. That's just they say it's the hardest reservation in the city to get. You can't really get it. I think Rayo's is like that too, but that's
no,
not
Rayo's
like
is way harder.
Well, that's not I don't think you can get it. They don't offer.
You have to be like a member to even to try to get a reservation at Rayo's. But for Fort Charles, they say if you go on their site, they have Resi, and it's like every 30 days it opens up at 9:30 a.m. and you can book for a thing. So I've done that several times, but literally the second you go on at 9 a.m. or whatever, 9:30 a.m., you click on it. Like if you're the first one to click on it, boom, it's full. You don't get it. So I think they only open it for like a day or maybe for the 30 days. A lot of restaurants do that. Like I know like Carbone in the city does that. A whole bunch of them.
But this restaurant, I don't know if you guys know about it, but it only has 8 tables.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a teeny tiny restaurant.
Yeah.
And they're really well known. You'll see that on Instagram if you're like a food person, like New York City food scene. They have like a burger that's super well known. It's at the bacon and they put the egg and they do the real sexy like presentation.
Yeah. I think you told me about it, and then I first started seeing. I always I follow Andrew Schultz's wife. She's a foodie, and when they live in New York City, she has like an Instagram page like Blistered Peppers or Blistering Peppers, something like that. And when she ever posts like a restaurant and it's in New York City, I quick look it up, and we have like a list of places we want to go to on our phone, and I always check it out. And I remember like over a year ago, I saw her post Fort Charles, and I was like, oh yeah, you said this was good. And a lot of places say it's the best cheeseburger. It's like the one where they wear the white glove, they cut it table side, and then they cut the yolk and drizzle the yolk over the bacon burger. Okay. And I like burgers, but I'm not like ride or die burger. Like if they're really good, I love them. If it's just like, if I'm at a diner, I'm like, I'm not getting a burger.
Right. Yeah. But to get into this restaurant, like we have tried reservations for like a year. We couldn't do it. But one of our good friends works in like the hospitality business, and someone she worked with had a connection, and he was gracious enough to hook us up with a table. So a reservation was for 9:30 Friday night.
4 people.
For 4 people. And then we get to the place at like 9:30, and when you're standing outside, it feels like really cool, like special, and there's like 100 different like paparazzi outside. We're like, oh wow.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, like all kinds of paparazzi. And so you're thinking, oh, well, I guess probably that makes sense. A lot of like famous people eat here. It's pretty cool. But they told us that our table wasn't ready. They said you could come back at 10:30.
Yeah, so they had like some of like the old like the COVID outdoor seatings. But when I say
indoor.
Yes. But
outdoor, indoor.
yeah. So they have them set up, but it is very nice. They have like if you're sitting in there, you can't even tell. It's like gorgeous. It's so over the top. So they told us the manager came outside because you can't go in. It's so tiny. She came out to the door and she's like, if you want to sit down now, she's like, I can sit you outside and then maybe we can go in later, or you guys can come back in like 45 minutes and we'll sit you inside. So we're like, that's fine. We'll go to a bar, get a drink. We'll come back. Like if we're there, we want to sit inside. We want to get the real experience. So we come back, and she's like, okay, don't worry. She's like, the people at the table they're closing out they're signing the check. It'll be just once they leave, we'll clear the table. You can come in. So it'll just be a couple minutes. We're like, okay. Now at this point, from when we were there the first time, like the crowds are even bigger. And I was like, oh, there's definitely someone like super famous in here. And I'm like, and you guys were like, oh, you think so? And I'm like, no, it's someone like Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, something like that. Because it was, first of all, the groups, it was a lot of girls around, and like they had the paparazzi were like on the sides, and they had the street kind of shut off. You could only walk if you were going to the restaurant. So we were there, and sure enough, walks out Taylor Swift. And it was crazy. The second she walked up, like took one step on the sidewalk.
We were walking in as she was walking out.
Yeah. People, the amount of like lights that went off, like I knew there was a lot of paparazzi, but when the lights go off, it was insane. And the people just screaming on the top of their lungs, like going crazy. And all she did was walk a few steps, get in her car, and drive off. And that some people like waited there for hours just to see her walk a few steps.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but it was pretty wild to see her. Like just her presence is pretty wild. She's like taller than I am because she had heels on. She was probably like 6'2".
Yeah. She's like, looks like a runway model.
Yeah. And then she like walked out and everyone was just going so crazy, like hundreds of pictures being taken and everything. And
and we're standing in the background.
We're like standing in the background waiting to get in. And so we're probably in the background of those pictures. Yeah. But I was thinking, then when I sat down, I was thinking like how difficult, like being famous is cool. Like I would like to be to some degree of famous. You have some degree of fame. No, I mean, as a UFC fighter, you know, you get recognized here and there. And you know, I've been with, you know, someone like Gordon Ryan is pretty famous. You know, the different levels of athletes who have been around, like Nate Diaz, was probably the most famous person I've like really spent time with. Yeah. But her level of fame, can you imagine how difficult someone of her of Taylor Swift's level of fame, like how difficult your life is? Like, not, I mean, obviously you don't feel bad for like a billionaire, like most famous person in the world, but everything you do is a production. Everything. It's got to be so challenging to do anything.
All day, every day too. And that's what's weird. Like, I understand the celebrities that like live in the middle of nowhere when they're like not working in their off season. I mean, I'm sure she has houses all over, but she lives a lot of the times in Manhattan. And I don't understand how celebrities like that live in Manhattan. Like, when every time you walk out your door, there's people there because everyone knows which house is yours, and your door is right there.
Yeah. And she definitely does not blend in. No. Like, she's so tall and like
so tall and skinny. Like, she looks like she's like a runway model.
Yeah. But it was pretty wild.
So we sat at her table.
So she left and we sat at her table, and we were like talking before the food came. We were like thinking, what do you think? Because they had just like announced like, oh, she's now a billionaire. Mm-hmm. And we were thinking like, what do you think someone like that tips?
Yeah. I mean,
like, because everything you do is under such scrutiny. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you're like a regular person, if you only tip like 15%, people are like, "Oh, you fucking asshole," blah blah blah. Right. Because tipping is so outrageous now. Like if you have terrible service, like you tip 20%.
Of course.
Right. Like, no matter what, 20% is like tipping zero.
They give you the wrong order. They're rude to you. They rush you. You give them 20%.
Fuck that. I'm only tipping 20%. Yeah. Yeah. So tipping at 20% is like flatline. So. Mm-hmm. I heard Dave Portnoy one time in an interview say, someone asked him about tipping, and he said he tips 100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just said he just tips 100%. He said it's just easier. He just tips 100%.
I think when you're at that like level of fame and stuff, you have to have a rule and you just stick to it, and that's what it is. It's weird. I feel like, you know, I think it's weird when people say, "Oh, they have so much money, they should tip more." Why?
Yeah, I don't think that at all, but you definitely do have to have some type of like cuz you're buying like you're not buying good press cuz no one's going to say you tip
No,
like
you're just
great, but
buying
you're
it so you
buying
don't
like
get
it's like
canceled.
insurance.
No, it's an extra tax so
Yeah,
people don't
yeah.
talk shit on you.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It's you have you are successful, so you have to pay more so bitter people don't bitch about you.
I think it's outrageous, but it's basically like someone of that status is paying for an insurance on not getting bad publicity about how
Yes.
they tip.
And I think that's crazy. I like obviously I've bartended for years. I worked in the industry, so like anyone that has worked in like that industry, they are definitely good tippers, and
Of
you
course.
understand
You're a
it.
good tipper.
Yes, but like I still don't think that just because someone comes in and they should do that. Like
Of course.
I think it's weird if someone's like, someone's super and they like don't tip or they tip below 20%. But I don't know. I think I would definitely do more than 20%, but I would do that, just have a unwritten rule. And if the service was good, I would like, just like now, like I'm not tipping, obviously, like I'm not a billionaire, but if I do have like really good service, I make sure like, I mean, I feel like it doesn't happen that often anymore, but
Well, they happened actually there. It was
there, yeah,
spectacular
you have to be at the
service.
hardest restaurant to get into to have a nice waitress.
Yeah.
But if there is really good service, I always make sure I do tip a lot. Like, I don't know. When I go to I don't go often. When I go to Starbucks drive-through or Starbucks, now they ask you the thing. I don't tip them. I get regular coffee. They don't make a drink. I get regular coffee. If for some reason the person was like super nice and just not annoyed that I was there, then I will tip. But I don't feel bad saying no. I think some people feel bad and just do the dollar, but I'm not tipping just for you to pour the coffee and be mean to me.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're just getting like after
tipping culture is like out of control.
And I don't fall for it. But if I go to like get a drink and someone's making me like, if it's late at night and it's busy and someone's making me an espresso martini and I know it's annoying as fuck, I will tip them.
Of
Just
course.
because I know it's
at
annoying.
a bar is totally different. You
Yes.
tip everything.
No, but I'll tip like extra if they're making an annoying drink for me.
Oh yeah, extra.
Because I know that I'm like, when I bartended, I was not nice. If someone would like, I remember mojitos, someone would ask for mojitos. I'd be like, no, we're out of mint, just because I was like, it's too hard to make. It takes too much time and it's not worth it. I was like, no, I'll give you a vodka cranberry. But so like if someone if I ask for an annoying drink or order and I make sure I tip extra.
Yeah. But like that was I just couldn't help but think of that because we sat down right after her. But because they really have to do something like spectacular every time they sit down. But I guess if you're a billionaire, who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. But they probably tip like 100%, I would say.
Yeah.
That's like Dave Portnoy. I had heard him say that.
I'm sure he's not the only, like he probably didn't make that up on his own. I'm sure in that like, billionaire, multiple millionaire world, it's kind of like a set standard.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But to get to the food, the burger, we ordered like, I only wanted the burger, but the people we were with, we wanted to like try everything. But the burger was the best food item I've ever eaten at a restaurant. For me, that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Like someone asked me, they were like, well, how was it? What would you score it? I mean, like it doesn't really compare to like any other burger.
No, you can't compare it to another burger. It's totally, it's like on a whole nother planet.
Right. I score it like as a food item that you ordered at a restaurant. And for me, it was the best. If I could go to like any restaurant again and get like one other thing, I mean, that was the best thing I've ever gotten at a restaurant, I think.
Yeah. And then they're also known for their prime rib, which I don't really like prime rib. I mean, I like steak, I like meat, so like I like it, I can eat it, but I was like, I wasn't really into it, and I was like, hey, if you guys want to order it, because that's their thing, they're known for that. It's called Fort Charles prime rib per prime steak. Wait, what isn't it prime rib or something? Like that. But that's their thing is prime rib. So we're like, if you get it, I'll try a bite of it, but I wasn't a fan of that. But I think that's not a fair assessment. I'm sure if you like prime rib, I'm sure that's the best. Or one of the best. I just don't really care for it. It just feels like wet, like cubed ham.
Yeah, I've never really cared for prime rib because like on a steak, like a prime rib is basically a ribeye just cut the other way. So you don't get the sear, you only get the sear on the edge. It's kind of like the opposite of a ribeye. Where a ribeye, you get the entire sear And on a steak, my favorite thing is like the crust.
Mm-hmm.
So like on like a gelatinous wet piece of like rare meat with like the not rendered fat on the
Yeah, it's
inside,
like
like
stringy.
prime rib is always kind of grossed me out.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't care for that. As
And it was super thick.
as Zane would call it, it was mid.
Yeah,
It was
super
mid.
mid.
The prime rib was mid, but the burger slapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burger was so good. Like everything about it was amazing. I like couldn't even. It really made me speechless.
Yeah, it was incredible.
It was so good.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a kind of a cool dining experience. But the big fight this weekend, we had Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, and I'm not like a boxing person. I don't really get excited for like the celebrity boxing matches. I don't really even get excited for like a Canelo Alves fight. Like, I don't really watch those.
I get more excited for like Jake Paul fights than Canelo.
Right.
Fights.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, we
too.
literally don't watch any real boxing unless it's Jake Paul.
Yeah, that's true. So
or
I'm not
bare
like
knuckle.
Like you're a boxing expert in terms of like training and stuff. Like,
I mean, boxing. I've like done the Golden Gloves 3 times. I have like a bunch of boxing fights. I've like been in like boxing gyms where there's no MMA fighters, just
Right.
boxing gyms like all over. I love boxing so much. It's my favorite. Like the boxing, being in a boxing gym and doing like a boxing workout is my favorite atmosphere, favorite style of training. I love like the art of boxing and footwork and head movement and everything like that. I love it so much, but I don't like to watch it.
yeah, I don't care for boxing either. And I'll get into the reasons why. But I was excited for this fight because I really do like Tyson Fury as a personality. I think he's hilarious. I think he's cool.
I didn't really know much. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't really like know much about him to be a fan. And then I watched he had like a reality show. I don't know if it was on Netflix or Hulu, something like that. And I watched that, and then I liked him. Him and his family was cute. I really like his wife. So then I became a fan of him.
Yeah, so he's cool. I've always really liked him. And then obviously the Francis story is a great story. Like his whole life is cool, and then the fact that he like got out of his contract, like fought out of his contract, and then ended up in this spectacular situation is cool. So I was excited to watch it. But so we bought the pay-per-view and we're watching it, and probably like everyone else, like the first thing that I noticed was like it's just so crazy because people talk about like fighter pay and stuff all the time, and it's just unusual to me that like the consumers bitch about fighter pay. Like it seems more than the fighters. Like you're a fighter, you never bitch about fighter pay. But everyone else is like, oh, they don't make shit. They don't make shit. But you are a fighter, and you've never complained about fighter pay.
I mean, of course if I could get paid $50 million to fight, of course I would love that.
Right.
Everyone, no matter what their job is or whatever, you want to get paid more, of course. But I mean, I think for what I do, I'm happy.
Right. So I can't believe, like, after watching that, like, you appreciate the production of the UFC so much. Like, if you had to watch if the UFC was like this type of event with the production and like the cameras and like every single thing about it just looked so like it looked like something from like the 1990s. The production was so poor, and like the breaks in between like the co-main event, I don't even know how to call it the co-main event, but the last fight on the card and then the main event was like an hour and a half.
There was like plenty of long stretches of times where it was just showing the empty ring and like just people walking around and nothing else.
Yeah. And maybe like being at the event, you'd be entertained with the music and the show and like the performances that were going on. But at home, like that's not cool. Like you don't watch a concert on TV. Like that's never done. Like
I mean, I guess Super Bowl would be the only thing.
I guess the Super Bowl is sort of like that. Yeah, but like if you're there at the boxing fight and there's a musical act, like okay, you're there. Maybe that's cool. I wouldn't like that. Like when I go to a UFC fight, if there was an hour and a half of like, even if it was like the best concerts in the world, if it was like Drake and Post Malone and like all the best artists, like I wouldn't want to see that. I'm at a UFC fight. I want to watch fights and then afterwards go out or whatever if you want to do that. But the production of this is so terrible that it's like I don't know how much longer I could sit through this. And then like you do your own thing. And then I came back and watched the fight, but it really makes you value and appreciate how spectacular the UFC is at every single thing in terms of production. The cameras, the announcers, the from Bruce Buffer to Joe Rogan to every single detail of it is just absolutely spectacular. Like I don't really watch the NFL, but people say like the NFL is really good production too. But
Mm-hmm.
the UFC is just in comparison to this is just like insane.
The thing that I think is interesting is like, okay, for the boxing, they have to do the concert. Even like PFL started doing that. They had Wiz Khalifa doing
I don't
that.
get that.
And I'm like, I don't get it either, but I get why they do it because they need something else to make it interesting, especially for the boxing thing. They need all this other stuff to make it worth the money that you're paying for the pay-per-view, which it's not. You're watching it for one thing, not even the second fight. You
No.
know, you're no one's watching it unless you're like that person's family or you trained with that person. But UFC, it's there's no time. They don't even show everyone's walkouts
Right.
because they don't show people between rounds because it's so much content that they need to squeeze in that time frame. So if you're paying for a pay-per-view for UFC, you're getting no filler.
None.
You're getting like action the whole entire time. When you watch a UFC card, it's fight, okay, they're done, boom, right away, fight, right after another, right after another. But I feel like with boxing, it's like they're trying to justify how much money it is and getting people to watch it. So like they're like, oh well, people don't care about the second fight, so let's just put a concert. Let's just pay all these people to do it. Like, oh look, we have this person singing here. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anyone was like, wow, this is cool. I think
It's
everyone,
not.
even like for me, I'm a fight fan. I'll watch every fight. But if you're paying for that, like you're annoyed you're paying for like the Tyson Fury fight, like,
And, like-
or any boxing fight. It was a great fight. I loved watching it, but it's one fight. You're paying when you could pay the same and have like so much action on a UFC for hours of entertainment.
Yeah, but to buy Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, that's enough. I don't need to see all these silly concerts.
They think
Like
they need
that's
stretch it.
enough.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's a long fight. I guess maybe the idea is it could have only lasted like
Yeah.
a minute, but whatever. It just really made me appreciate the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual fight, I'm not like at all a boxing expert, but I was like watching the fight and I was texting my friends and I was actually texting Tim Carpenter and he wasn't watching the fight, but I was telling him, I was like, I'm not a boxing expert, but I think Francis is winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole time.
That was
I
the
think
same. I was texting my brother, same thing.
the first round, I thought that Francis looked a little like tentative, and he was like, I thought he was going to blitz him right away, but Francis looked a little tentative the first round, and I thought Tyson looked great. I was like, oh man, Tyson's going to fuck him up. But then the second round, Francis looked totally different. He was like way more like movement and coming forward, and he just looked a lot better. Then the third round, he dropped him. Francis dropped Tyson. Then after that, I was just like so taken back with how often Tyson Fury was like clinching him up.
Yeah, he was clinching the entire, like almost the whole time. You would have thought that Francis would have been.
I
doing
would have
that.
thought that.
Because usually, like when I go to boxing gyms and I box, like when I've seen it, when for me and when other MMA fighters go and boxers, a lot of times, like when it comes to like the slickness in the pocket moving like that, UFC or like MMA fighters tend to clinch more to like stop that, and it's a way to like kind of match that style because you're not gonna have like the same like slickness counter, like you're not have the boxing skills aren't matched, so you kind of have to like slow it down by not wrestling them but like tying them up. Okay, now you break, now I get a fresh start because usually the MMA fighters aren't as good.
It breaks
like,
their
in
rhythm.
The pocket. Yeah, it gets them their arms tired, slows them down. So that's kind of the thing. But it was weird because I was expecting Francis to do that, but it was Tyson doing it. And I was like, why is he clinching him up? And then I was like, oh, maybe he's trying to he knows Francis has this knockout power. He's a boxer. Maybe he was trying to be like, let me get his arms tired, slow him down, get wear on him, and then pick it up later. But then as the fight went on, it looked like he was just tentative and a little, not scared, but like he was more on the defense, where Francis was definitely picking it up on the offense.
And Francis definitely did not get tired. It didn't
No.
look like it to me. I remember the commentators, which they're probably biased towards boxing, but they're like saying that he looked tired in the 9th and 10th round. But I didn't really notice that at all, which was surprising. And like I said, I'm definitely not a boxing expert, but I thought that Francis won. I was like, because usually like a knockdown, in boxing, it's an automatic 10-8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like winning 2 rounds. Like he definitely at least won, 4 others.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I had him winning pretty. I mean, I was surprised.
Yeah. I was surprised. I was like, oh, they're going to make it a draw. One of the things like I find funny is when you watch like the commentators, and I know a lot of the stuff from when I'm like would train at boxing gyms, and it kind of reminds me of it. Like they kept saying, the commentators kept talking about how awkward Francis was. And usually when MMA fighters do boxing, they are awkward in the sense where like boxers have a little bit of hard trouble because it's like they're not as slick. They're just kind of like tough and like things work, but like it's not really what people do. They don't respect certain things. They don't, so usually they are awkward, but Francis was not awkward. He looked like a boxer, and I did not expect that at all. He looked like a boxer, and I thought I totally underestimated him, and I was so shocked at like how good he did, just because I know how hard it is in boxing, like, and to never have a boxing fight and to do 10 rounds, that's a whole separate thing. Because like when I'm in camp and I've had like 5-round fight camps and I box like 7 rounds sparring and there's 3 minutes. It's a lot harder because there's so many rounds, and this is 7 I'm talking about, and this is sparring, not an actual fight, where it's hard to keep track of what's going on, where to be like, oh, okay, I lost this round. Oh, no, they got that. Like, it's hard to keep score in your head of what's going on, and it's easier, at least for me, where I would almost kind of black out and just, we're so close to each other, you just can't stop throwing, and you just start to, like, kind of black out and just fight. So I couldn't 10 rounds for your first boxing match with Tyson Fury, I thought is pretty crazy. So, but I think Tyson Fury or Francis Ngannou, he like looked very professional, and like some of the things the boxing like announcers were saying, oh, he's tired, his mouth's open. This is what old school boxers, they have like little like unspoken, they have like their own rules. And where in MMA, no one cares about that. And it's so different. I just think it's tale of a time and like moving on and like understanding things. Francis, like they always say that in the boxing. They're like, their mouth's open, they're tired. I'm like, I mean, no one in MMA would say, oh, their mouth's open. Like, what does like Michael Chandler look like? Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje, you think their mouths are open when they're fighting? You think they probably are tired, but it doesn't matter. They're still going to go. Right. Where in boxing, it's so much like, keep a poker face. You can't close your mouth. If your mouth's open, you're tired. And they kept saying that like Francis was awkward and then his mouth was open. He was tired. I'm like, I mean, looks like he was doing better. I thought he did really good. I wonder if watching it, because I thought Tyson Fury was just going to like play with him. I did not see that coming at all. I wonder if Tyson Fury, I'm not taking anything away from Francis, but I wonder if he like underestimated. Everyone underestimated Francis, but I wonder if that affected like his training, if he trained a little bit less for this than he does. I mean, he didn't look out of shape. He just looked like he just got better, or Francis was better, but it's funny we're saying this and he actually won, but yeah. You know what I mean? I think most people think Francis won.
Yeah, in our community for sure. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert.
Yeah,
I thought
maybe
Francis
boxing
won, but it was definitely close.
Yeah,
for sure. But when they kept saying, and Tyson Fury kept saying it too, he's like, oh, it's very awkward, very awkward. I was thinking like that's sort of like a passive aggressive way to say, like, it's like in jiu-jitsu when someone says, oh, you're real strong. He's real strong. Where it's like not an insult to say someone's strong,
but it's saying you're not good, like, you're just strong.
Good, you're just strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
The awkward too is definitely like can be a passive aggressive insult.
It's certainly
the way boxing, the way that's what all the boxers and like the critics, they were all saying that. They're like, oh, we thought he was gonna be awkward and throwing like elbow. It's like no. Even the commentator once like, we thought he was gonna be like accidentally throwing elbows in the clinch, but it was Tyson Fury. I was like, he didn't look awkward at all. Like usually when you see any of them, I'm like, they look awkward, but he did not look like it at all. He looked like a boxer.
I think I was most impressed with the fact, like, the way he's built and how, like, explosive he is. The fact that he didn't get tired
yeah.
was, like, the craziest thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, I would have thought he's definitely going to get tired. But, yeah, he did great. I think it really puts him in a position where I was thinking about this. You forget that he is currently signed with the PFL.
I forgot that. Yeah.
Like, in what world does he ever fight in MMA ever again? Like, why would you go from that fight on, like, that stage to fight? Who could he possibly fight in the PFL that would make, like, any sense at all?
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
I can't.
he's going to have a rematch.
He's absolutely going to have a rematch.
He's in boxing probably for.
He's definitely
just
in boxing
now.
forever.
I doubt I would be very surprised if he fought MMA again. And at this point, if he did, it would be like if somehow something came up, like if John Jones got cut from the UFC and then signed with PFL or like something like that. You know what I mean? Like something weird.
Something weird
like that. But yeah, I think he's going to be in boxing.
I mean, I could see. I mean, he wouldn't really need to have to like train or anything. He could just take a PFL fight. But why risk an injury for? Even if they paid him, I think they said what $10 million a fight or something.
Mm-hmm.
Him fighting in the PFL and risking like you could get a bad cut, even though he will murder anyone he fights in the PFL
or in the train. Yeah,
but you can easily someone kicks you in the knee and tear your ACL, or like he has 4-ounce gloves and he breaks his hand. So you make $10 million, but you lose out on a Tyson Fury fight where the rematch he could make like $50 million.
Right.
I can't see a situation where he'll ever fight an MMA fight in the PFL after that performance.
I think if he would have got like totally murked by Tyson Fury, then he would have done it. But now I'm like, and it's funny because PFL's probably like eyes are lighting up because they're probably like, yes, he's even bigger now. So we all this money. I mean, I don't think
I don't think so. They can't afford him anymore. I don't think. Like,
well, even him just going to the events might help them a little bit. It's gonna help them some.
I don't know. I didn't hear one thing mentioned about the PFL. All I heard was former UFC champion. I didn't hear current PFL fighter. I didn't hear that one time.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe I didn't listen that closely. But the only mention of the MMA world was former UFC fighter,
Mm-hmm.
But I just can't see a situation now. Like if he would have lost and got like totally fucked up by Tyson Fury, like probably everyone thought he would, then you would be like, well, he totally played the system. He's got a $30 million paycheck from Tyson Fury to go out there and get murked. And now he has a contract with PFL for $10 million a fight to fight no-name MMA guys.
Yeah.
That would have been like, he just set himself up so perfectly. But in the way it is now, I just can't see how it would make sense for him to go fight like some random PFL guy.
I don't know what happens. So you know how Tyson Fury was supposed to fight in
Usyk?
in December. Is that's like does he have to do that before he can do it?
They already said it's canceled.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So because I was gonna say with that guy's probably like, oh my god.
Yeah,
no
it sucks
way.
for that guy.
Yeah. But
because now that fight will never happen, especially if he fights Francis again, and then maybe Francis beats him. Then
because he's already like Tyson Fury's already retired, like
basically, yeah.
So you know what I mean? If you're banking on fighting him for your big payday, like, I mean, he might fight Tyson Fury or fight Francis again, and then not fight again. Like, you know what I mean? You never know.
Yeah, but that performance with Francis opened it up to way more than just a rematch with Tyson. Like, that will probably happen, I would guess.
Oh, yeah, I already saw, like, Anthony Joshua.
But Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, now those are, like, I mean, to me, those would sell better than this first fight. Because this first fight, probably everyone thought he was just going to get murked. But now he had a better fight with Tyson Fury than, like, Deontay Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just as good.
Yeah.
Now you have him versus Deontay Wilder, like the two hardest hitters ever. Like Tyson Fury is not necessarily like a knockout artist from what I understand.
Yeah.
Like where Deontay Wilder is, like there's always who hits harder, Francis or Deontay Wilder. Like that to me is almost more interesting now than this. This was like, oh, it's just an exhibition. But now Francis is like a solidified like contender.
Yeah. It's crazy just his whole life and how he grew up and all this. I mean, there 100% is going to be like a movie about him.
Yeah, 100%.
And not like not just like, oh, like a little documentary, like a real, I think like a real in the theaters movie.
Yeah, there should be.
You know, it's insane. Even at that event, like all the celebrities that were, Kanye West was there.
Yeah, that's great.
Love him.
Yeah.
There's like just seeing like all the people there was insane.
Yeah. Everyone was there. And it was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And if it was at like, MSG or like Vegas.
Yeah. It's not easy to get to.
Yeah, it's not easy to get to.
I mean, I'm sure
Plus,
like
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of they were all got paid pretty good
I'm
and
sure,
all that to be there. But yeah, still, it's crazy.
Yeah. It was cool though. Good. I mean, good for Francis.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, I cannot see a situation that he fights in the PFL. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It was funny because not that I wanted Tyson Fury to win, but was more going into it. And I feel bad saying this because I feel like I'm the MMA fighter, so you have to side with the MMA fighter. And I do, but I just honestly, I didn't think there was any chance Francis was gonna win. So I was more excited for Tyson Fury just because I'm more of like a fan of him. I just think he's funny and cool. Francis, I think I admire him for his athletic ability and like his whole life. I think it's super great, but I'm just more of a fan of Tyson Fury. And then like after like the second round, I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, it switched like that. It's not that I didn't want him to win. I just didn't even think he had a chance. So I wasn't like hopeful for him. And after I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think like everyone was so shocked. It was really cool to see.
Definitely cool.
I want
really
a rematch.
Cool event. Zayn was over for the fights, but he didn't give a fuck.
No. He doesn't really do fights. He'll come over for fight night, but he does not look at the TV one time.
Did you watch 1 second of that, even though you were here for it?
I watched it when you started making sounds. You're like, oh, he's got him. He's got him. He's not on the ground.
But I feel like that was almost like a nervous, where you just happen to quick look real fast because you're like, what happened? And then you just turn. You were sitting under the TV, like facing us.
Purposely.
Well, put it this way. Zayn was like sitting on a chair, in the chair while we were watching the fights. And he was looking at his phone. And while Tyson Fury was fighting Francis Ngannou in the biggest event of the year, Zayn was on his phone. And there was like a 15-year-old kid that trains jiu-jitsu at Vanguard. Shout out to Josh. And he was having a
Careful
match.
what you say here.
He was having a match, like a local grappling match in Long Island. And Zayn was watching his match on his phone rather than the Tyson Fury fight.
I'm just not that big into fighting. The only person I watch is Caitlin.
I love that.
Like the only time I've ever like pulled my car to the side of the road, like set my like phone up and just like sat down to watch a fight was yours. That's it.
What don't you like about it?
I mean, it's not that I don't like anything about it. It's just like I don't get that. It's just like I don't
It's
really
probably
get
like
the
how
hype.
we feel when we watch football.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I have no personal interest in it.
That's interesting.
I think it's because it just got so mainstream.
That you so you purposely don't like it because it's mainstream. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about like NFL. I mean, I used to like football, but I'm just like, meh. I like the game, and but just I can't watch it with all the commercials and all the like bullshit stuff. It's just annoying. It's too much.
But UFC's not like that.
Exactly. That's why I watch it.
Well, Zayn doesn't.
I feel like people talk about fighters like sports teams now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little.
Like people like always like Connor, Khabib. I'm just
actually, when people talk like that though, that aren't like fight people, but like when sports people get into it and like a Conor McGregor fight's coming up, be like, oh, you watching the fights this week? And I'm like,
it makes me uncomfortable.
Like people who watch for like Conor McGregor fight and then they'll
only
talk
like
about
Conor
it,
McGregor.
Stop, man.
Yeah, basically Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz. That's pretty much
then
it.
There's almost like another.
That's the really like
the Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's like
crowd.
that's like people that like watch. I would guess that's probably how I am. Like we watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's some people who are like, will mention like a fighter from the 90s or something. Like I like Hoist Gracie, or like. Or even like Chuck Liddell. No, I've heard people say that. I've definitely heard people say stuff like that. Oh, I like Tito Ortiz.
Yeah,
like what? How do you know who that is?
They just know that name, Chuck Liddell. That's funny. But then there's like the second tier people that are like, you know, Sean O'Malley, Patty Pimblett. Sean O'Malley almost
Well,
came and
that's
say,
almost like social media type.
yeah, but I'm saying that's the next like type of. You can't say bandwagon because not Sean O'Malley, but like Patty Pimblett. If you're like, oh, I like Patty Pimblett, unless you're like from his hometown, like.
Yeah, but
I
then
don't
there's some people like this is a really like unique group where like I'll just say it, like Marco Perazzo, our good friend.
Mhm.
Like if you ask him like who's your favorite fighter, he'll say like some random like Japanese guy from Pride.
Oh, yeah, if you know that's like
I'm
really.
oh, that's a different.
That's like a
era.
real like long. That's a lifelong martial artist. I think.
Yeah. They'll say like some like I wish I could think of a name.
Yeah.
Like-
Was the guy that like submitted Sakuraba or something? Is that one?
Sakurava's one.
Is that one? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
sure. I was like, is that a name? I'm not sure. He's the one that tapped Tensa, right?
No,
Or-
Henzo. Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
He broke Henzo's shoulder. He didn't.
Yes.
Henzo didn't tap though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Marco loves those fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also
that's
those-
like a fun crowd. But then there's
Yeah, but
people
those
who
are
miss, like-
educated people.
Right. Then there's a crowd that like missed those 10 years, and they're like, oh, I like Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. Who
Like,
wears the fedor? People. That's almost like in the Pride.
But
Those are the people. That, like,
Fedor's like in that era, but like someone like Marco is way deeper. It'll be
Yeah.
like some guy who's like a half professional wrestler, half
Mhm.
professional
Yeah.
fighter.
yeah.
Like that's like his favorite fighter.
Mhm.
Yeah. But there's a lot of tiers to that sport. But I like the people who like watch every like not the main card.
I
type.
think the people that like talk about it and think that like Pride is so much better, or like new age people now they're like, I don't wear fast fashion, I only thrift my clothes. You know what I mean? Or like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like Starbucks, I just like my own, like, you know what I mean? They're almost like snobby about their like depth of knowledge in martial arts.
Right. But
Which they should be.
in terms of like the best era of fighting, I'm like I feel so strongly about this. Like whoever the best is today is the best that's ever done it.
Oh, I totally agree.
I believe in that so much. Like people will talk about
Yes.
like, you know, and I use the example, like this is like a insane example, but like Babe Ruth, be like, oh, he's the best home run hitter of all time. I don't know anything about baseball, but I know that Babe Ruth cannot hit a home run off whoever the pitcher for the Yankees is today.
Right.
Like
right.
it would be like the most insane thing ever. Like
Yeah.
he wouldn't even see the ball.
yeah.
Like whoever the best home run hitter is today, Aaron Judge, that's the best home run hitter.
Yes. Yeah.
And like whoever the best like best champion right now, like that's the best fighter.
Yeah.
Because it just
just
goes
evolves
with
so
time.
much.
It evolves so much. Like an MMA champion from like 7 years ago, like I don't care what you say, and people probably hate me for this, but like if you take Israel Adesanya at his best versus Anderson Silva at his best, in my opinion, it's not even close. It's just
Mhm.
too much time like has developed in the sport. Like
I mean, you watch any fight, the fights have evolved. Like even
so
like
much.
think about
There's
if you-
moves that people didn't even do back then that they do now, like the calf kick.
Mhm.
Like that's totally changed the game.
Yeah.
That wasn't even done like 10
That wasn't
years
even
ago.
like a thing when my first UFC fight, and I'm
Right.
still like, oh, it's not like
yeah.
that's such a it evolves so much in such a short amount of time. It's like crazy.
Right. And like even like from a grappling standpoint, like a lot of the wrestling done in say like 10, 15 years, like George St. Pierre was like the best grappler, like that best takedown guy
Mhm.
in forever, for a really long time. But he shot like double legs off like striking, like level change double legs. Like I don't think you see that too much now.
Yeah.
Like the best grapplers now use the cage. Like Khabib didn't really like shoot like an open double leg off
Right.
strikes. Like he presses people in the cage, and it just makes the grappling so much more complex.
yeah.
It's so much harder to deal with because like everyone's wrestled and defended a double leg in open space. But like then when you're using the cage against the person, like the cage used to be like it just makes everything so much more complicated
Yeah.
when there's that added element. Now the grappling is that, and
Well,
just
I guarantee you-
jiu-jitsu's advanced so much.
Like when you're in a fight camp, you have like boxing. If you, I mean, not everyone, but this is how I do it. Like a boxing session, a wrestling session, jujitsu, like, and we'll have sessions where we're just doing wall work.
Of course, yeah.
Like, and everyone knows how to do everything. Before it used to be the wrestler versus the boxer or the
Right.
striker. Now everyone's good at everything, and everyone knows how to, whether you can do it in the fight, knows how to defend, how the proper way to practice how to defend a double leg. Whereas before it was just, hey, who's my coach? Who's the guy in my gym?
Right.
What drills can we do?
Right,
And it was
drills,
just if
yeah.
you were kind of like naturally good at stuff.
Yeah. Oh, along those same lines, just back to that fight, they kept saying the baddest man on the planet, baddest man on the planet. Like, that is so annoying because boxing is a sport. And I'm not hating on boxing because I'm a lifelong wrestler. Wrestling is just a sport. It's not a fight. Jiu-jitsu, like some people call it a fight. It's not a fight. The baddest man on the planet is the heavyweight champion. John Jones is the baddest man on the planet. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. John Jones is the baddest man on the planet. Like, if you're if Tyson Fury, he won that fight, so he's the baddest man on the planet now. Like, I would think if he were to fight like the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world, if Tyson Fury fought Gordon Ryan, I mean, I would think that it would be like a coin flip. Maybe Tyson Fury could knock him out, but he better be able to do it before Gordon does
sits on the floor.
Sits on the floor and gets into his leg and breaks his leg off.
I mean, literally just sit on the floor.
I mean, it's probably more like 60-40 Gordon, realistically, because there's more ways he could press him into the cage or pull him down.
Oh, you're saying like in an MMA?
in
I
an
just think
MMA
he
fight.
sits down in the middle of the
If he
floor.
sat in
And
the
what's
middle of the
Tyson going to do?
floor,
Bend over and punch him in the face? Maybe. But then I think it's more than 60-40 Gordon.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, literally, if you were fighting someone that,
Yeah.
you just sit down.
Right.
Ding, 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 sit.
Yeah.
Now try to knock me out from standing. And
Right.
you're like 7 foot tall. Bend over, and then you just go right in on his legs if he's never trained before.
If he's never trained before. But
I'm not
I mean,
saying,
there's
like-
plenty of heavyweights that the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world cannot.
It might be harder
with
for him
because-
to do that to Francis.
Oh, it'd be almost impossible
Yeah.
to do that to Francis.
Yeah.
Because he's so hard to take down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even the best wrestlers have a hard time taking him down.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel Cormier wouldn't, like, definitely take him down.
Yeah.
He probably could, but it would be really tough to not get hit in the face while you're trying to take him down.
Yeah.
But someone who's never defended a takedown, like Tyson Fury, they might lose to a high-level grappler,
Yeah.
right? So the baddest man on the planet still, it's not Francis Ngannou and it's not Tyson Fury. It's John Jones.
Yeah.
That's it. It's John Jones.
The ability to switch is just so crazy. I would I've sparred girls that were like whatever world champion boxing mean, but like really good top rank world champion boxer girls. I've sparred them and they put it on me, and then they were trying to maybe get into MMA and they were like, oh, or had an MMA fight trying to make a transition, and then when I would spar them, they're like, oh, I can kick too, and we can do MMA sparring. And me sparring them in MMA, and this made me feel good about boxing, because when I would box them, I'm like, oh, they're putting it on me. But I knew I was still giving them work. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't they weren't babying me. But when I would do MMA sparring with the pro boxers, it was like, I was like, no, I can't do it. Like, you need to pay me to give you a private lesson.
Right.
Like, there's plenty of amateur girls at any gym that would give me much better work.
Right.
I was like, but it's crazy how them, when they're boxing, would beat me, but then for MMA, it wasn't even like a workout for me, because it would be the same as like, I don't even know, like the same as a tennis player doing it. Maybe they're tougher,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Or like, maybe if you got like, I'm thinking of like a tough sport, like a rugby girl player or something like that would be the same,
Right.
you know? So it's just crazy. Yeah. It's hard to like compare them with each other. I think you can compare maybe like jiu-jitsu and wrestling with MMA, that type of transfer, but like boxing's totally different.
It's totally different. Boxing is like, it's a lot.
It's
an MMA guy against a boxer is kind of like a wrestler against a jiu-jitsu guy in jiu-jitsu. Like, they're similar, but a wrestler is 100% losing 100% of the time.
Yeah.
A jiu-jitsu guy, they're both
Unless
grapple.
it's like low, if it's a high level.
No, I'm saying high level.
Yeah.
Like, the best wrestler in the world cannot do a jiu-jitsu match with the best. It's the same
Because
thing.
you know some like blue belt or purple belt jiu-jitsu guy is going to be like, I did a naga and I beat a Penn State wrestler or something. You know what I mean? Or a Division I wrestler. It's like, okay, no, like the high level.
No, I'm saying at the highest level, if
Yes.
the best wrestler in the world goes against the best jiu-jitsu guy in a grappling match, the jiu-jitsu guy will always win.
Yeah.
They're just they're not similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun to watch. Interesting.
It's probably like, I wonder what they say like the pay-per-views do and how like for boxing, like if that was equivalent to another Tyson Fury fight or Tyson Fury and like the other fights. I don't know enough about boxing to know if like how big the boxing, like I know every MMA fighter fan watched it, but I don't know if like every boxing fan watched that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Cause then I'm like,
When they're on during the day too, I wonder how that affects it. I like it better, but
yeah.
I don't know how that affects it.
Yeah.
But
because especially for us, it was like on like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, but we're on the East Coast. If you're,
yeah,
then
like
it's even like 3 o'clock for, you
3
know.
o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know, but yeah. You got anything else, Zane? Will you do anything for Halloween? Any parties?
Nah, bro, just work.
Just work.
Just work.
That's it.
Workhorse.
Workhorse.
Go hard or go home.
I've never been a Halloween person. I've
We've never
dressed up. Never.
Since I've been with you, we've never dressed up.
Yeah, I'm not a Halloween guy.
Well, one time we dressed up, but it was more like not for Halloween. It was around Halloween time, but we just dressed silly. But it was like,
Yeah, I've never been like a Halloween guy.
were you
know.
growing up?
No, I never cared for it.
It's funny when like growing up as a kid, I loved Halloween. I thought it was so fun. I loved it. And I remember there's like a point in your life where, you know, I think for me definitely, and there's maybe you've talked about it too, I think, and other people, but where there's things when you're a kid and like you think your parents are like mean or like so like lame or something about things, and then there's a point in your life where you switch and you're like, oh no, I get it.
Yeah,
I remember as a kid, my mom was always like, I hate Halloween. It's my least favorite holiday.
like
and
decorations and stuff.
yeah, decorations and just like the costumes. And I remember her like saying she hates it. And I was like, I couldn't understand. I was like, oh, why? It's so fun. It's so cool. Like, you get to make a costume, go
Yeah.
trick or treat. I'm like, it's so fun. And then it's like, once I graduated college, I was like, oh no, I get it. Like, I
mean,
think
I get where like if you're college age, it's fun.
No,
Like or
college
some
age-
cool Halloween parties for
Yes.
sure.
I think obviously if you have kids, it's fun for them. Anything's fun for
Mhm.
them. You're a kid. I think college, and then I maybe like your mid-20s when you're still like going out and like blacking out at bars and stuff. I think that's fun. And then after that, I think unless you're like an extreme, like, I don't know, extremely artistic and have a really good
Right.
costume. Like, I love watching.
Like the creativity.
I love watching Waiting. I've been looking. Only Courtney's posted one so far. I love watching the Kardashians' Halloween costumes. They do pick random things and they look exactly like it. Like exactly like it, where you know. But when I see like adults and they're wearing like their stupid costume that you don't even like know what it is, and they like post, I'm like,
Yeah, if you like kill it, you get
It's-
like some super creative costume,
Yes.
and you like kill it, and then it definitely is cool.
if I had like someone making me a custom costume and helping me pick it out and doing my makeup and having everything perfect, I would love it. But I'm not just going to like the Halloween store or picking something up on Amazon. Like, I just think it's
No.
what's the at that point if I have to spend $100 on some stupid costume, I think that's such a waste of money, and I just
Right.
think it's like gross and like I don't know. I just don't. I think it's like super tacky. But if you're extreme and you have a whole like team
Then it's
helping you
worth it.
out, then I think it's worth it. Or if you're a kid,
So creativity has to be a part of it.
yes. And I think money.
One time I went out on Halloween, Zane, speaking of like not creative, and I went out with I didn't really know what to wear, so like barely had like nothing, like not really a costume because I'm not creative. But
You
I
didn't
went
know
out
you
with
had to wear one.
Jake Shields, and I met him at a bar, and it was like Halloween. It was literally on Halloween night, and you know what Jake was dressed up as?
They didn't talk about this. This is such a guy thing to meet a guy out in the city to go out on Halloween and not say, "Hey, bro, are you wearing a costume?" Or did you ask him?
I mean, kind of, but he was wearing a gi.
No way.
Yeah,
Full
just the gi. So he was like
gi.
himself. He was just like a jiu-jitsu guy.
He wore a blue gi, pants, belt.
Black
That's
belt.
so bad.
But he was just like himself.
Kyle, you know what Kyle had on?
No.
I was like, I still don't get it, but he was like, I don't know. He's like, he wore like black jeans, black t-shirt, and a black leather jacket, which is like what he wears.
But I was
anyway.
myself
Fine.
too.
And he's like, I don't know, like I wore my leather jacket because it's Halloween. Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah, but that's what I mean. If you have no creativity, it's kind of stupid.
I was Harold and Kumar last year.
You were yourself.
I was myself.
yeah.
That's what I mean. If you're not creative, you're Jake Shields in a gi. You as Harold and Kumar.
I'll be Jake Shields in the gi this year.
That'd be something different.
That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
You ever heard the song G in a gi?
Yes.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I also think like Halloween now is just so different for people who are like 20.
Why?
Why?
I just feel like, I mean, it just takes forever to do anything now because everyone's going to the same spots. Like, you want to get into a bar for Halloween, it's like a 2-hour wait.
It's like New Year's Eve, right? Like you have to buy sometimes pre-ticket line. It's like, yeah. But most people love that, but I feel like you're just,
I'm just like, let's do something or I'm going home.
yeah.
Like,
If there's like any bit of a line, you're going home.
You're kind of like an old soul.
Yeah.
I'm just old.
Not old, but you're like an
You're
old
definitely
soul.
not,
you
but
wanna,
you act like
you,
it.
You focus on business. You like talking.
You don't have time for BS.
Yeah.
Nah.
You don't like any mid shit. Was that right?
That's actually correct. That was good.
Yeah.
No cap.
No cap.
Yeah, I don't know. When I see like all like the people posting their costumes, I'm like, I think it's like, I don't like when people look like I don't know. I kind of think, I don't want to say this because watch, we do it when we have kids, when we do it. But I think if you have kids, you don't have to dress up as a parent. Like you can maybe do something. I don't know. Do the kids really want you to dress up? Like when I see like dads wearing like fake muscle shirts and stuff, like
Yeah,
the Spider-Man.
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know. I just don't think you have to dress up.
I didn't grow up like that.
What did your dad wear for Halloween?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No.
Your
My
dad was
parents didn't.
himself?
My parents.
No,
This is the
I never did
okay,
anything
but
like
back
that.
to it. Like, there's other. Like I said, I remember my mom hated. My parents didn't dress up for Halloween. So then it's like, well, I wonder if they did. If our parents like were super into it,
Yeah,
if we would
maybe it
get
would be,
into
yeah.
it.
Probably.
But it's funny when you're like younger. I used to be like, oh, come on, why don't you just? I don't get it. Why don't you dress up, get into it? Now I'm like, I wouldn't put like Halloween. Fall decorations are different, but Halloween decorations,
totally
I'm like,
different, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like cheesy to me.
Oh my god, totally. But like my family wasn't into like Christmas growing up, and I'm like super into Christmas and
Okay.
decorating and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily has to do with it. It's what you like.
Yeah. There's a couple of things too, like that when I was a kid and like growing up, I remember like I'd always want like, not always, but I remember wanting like a hamster or a guinea pig. And my parents would be like, no, like not even like, oh, me was it was just
Yeah.
like, no, that's gross.
Yeah.
Never ever. Don't even try
Yeah,
to
we've
ask.
talked about stuff like this.
Yeah, and then and I'd be like, oh, so mean. Like I don't understand. We have a dog. Like they like animals. Like why can't it's just in a cage? Like what's the big deal? I don't understand. Like my friend has like 2 guinea pigs and a chinchilla. Her parents are so cool.
No.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, why would anyone have a disgusting little thing? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, because I was a child. I don't understand how
Yeah.
gross it is. And then some, like, you know what I mean? You
Of course.
understand.
There's so many things like that.
I
yeah.
like when I realize those things. Sometimes I'm like,
It means
'cause,
you have good parents.
like, I'm always like, sometimes I'm like, oh, am I getting old? I notice it. And I'm like, oh no, like, I've transitioned into that phase. I'm like, oh, I get it.
Of course.
I'm like, oh, like anything they said made sense. They got it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you're not going out or no costumes?
I don't really want to. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if I have to go out, I have to go out with like my like girlfriend's friends, and it's like I don't really like.
Well, I think if you're a guy and like the girlfriend kind of gets the costume together for you.
Yeah, but I don't want to hang out with her friends all night.
Well, I had not enough guys. You don't have like
They're just like all right, you know what I mean? Like
you're not. She has her friends. You have your friends. You guys don't have like a lot of mutual friends.
Have you ever gone on a double date like with another couple?
once or twice.
With who? Who are these people? Zane? Why don't we know about them?
Not as of recently.
But we know them.
No.
No.
If
This is,
you
like pre you guys.
if you would have gone on like a double date with like
No, with
someone
this,
we know,
with this
I would have
current
been.
girlfriend, have you ever gone on a double date?
Oh no, never,
Oh, okay.
never. Yeah, I didn't even go on a double date with my last girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
The one like the most close.
I feel like
thing-
he's young to do double dates, unless I feel like that age you
Yeah.
only do like first of all you don't
Groups
do
of
the,
friends.
most people your age probably don't even do dates, but you're an old soul, so you probably do dates.
Wait, do you go on dates?
I go on dates.
Like you a
They go
dinner
out to
date?
dinner,
or
yeah.
we go
something?
out to dinner and then like we used to go to the city, bro. We used to be so young and hip. We used to take the train in from Lindenhurst and all the way to
Lindenhurst.
Ronkonkoma.
You know.
All right, let's wrap it up. All right, thanks for listening.
Bye guys. Happy Halloween.